Good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to ULT San Diego for the Aquarian series presentation. The title of this afternoon's presentation is Karma and Choice, which will be given to us by Desiree Van Sanen. So before we begin, a reading. This is taken from a book entitled The Theosophical Tenets, and the specific area we're focusing on is entitled Aphorisms on Karma. 1, there is no karma unless there is a being to make it or feel its effects. 2, karma is the adjustment of effects flowing from causes during which the being upon whom and through whom that adjustment is affected experiences pain or pleasure. 3, karma is an undeviating and unerring tendency in the universe to restore equilibrium, and it operates incessantly. 4, the apparent stoppage of this restoration to equilibrium is due to the necessary adjustment of disturbance at some other spot, place, or focus which is visible only to the yogi, to the sage, or the perfect seer. There is therefore no stoppage, but only a hiding from view. 5, karma operates on all things and beings from the minutest conceivable atom up to Brahma, proceeding in the 3 worlds of men, gods, and the elemental beings. No spot in the manifested universe is exempt from its sway. 6, karma is not subject to time, and therefore he who knows what the ultimate division of time in this universe is, knows karma. 7, for all other men, karma is in its essential nature unknown and unknowable, but its action may be known by calculation from cause to effect. And this calculation is possible because the effect is wrapped up in and is not succeedent to the cause. Number 19 says, changes may occur in the instrument during one life so as to make it appropriate for a new class of karma. And this may take place in 2 ways. A, through intensity of thought and the power of a vow. And B, through natural alterations to complete exhaustion of all and all causes. Finally, karma is both merciful and just. Mercy and justice are only opposite poles of a single whole, and mercy without justice is not possible in the operations of karma. That which man calls mercy and justice is defective, errant, and impure. And so we now give to you our very own Desiree Van Sanen. Yeah. Jonathan Colbert will begin.
Well, thank you again, Monica, for the beautiful reading. She just read out 10 of the 31 aphorisms from William Quan Judge, and he's the person in the left side picture up there. And so we will be kind of tapping into those aphorisms, and then we will focus on a few points that are made in an article by Sri Raghavan Iyer called Karma and Choice, which is our topic for this evening. And then Desiree will take us from there, and she will expound brilliantly, I must say, because I got to read her piece on karma in the Kali Yuga, in this special age of accelerated precipitation, we'll call it. So I will just go over a few fundamentals about karma and about karma and choice. I'm going to first look at it from the perspective of a universe of law, in other words, natural law, not human law, the physics of metaphysics, I like to say. And um, and then I'd like to take a look at the same topic from the perspective of the fact that it's a universe of consciousness, that everything is alive, everywhere, always. And then I will look at the concept of instrumentality as how that facilitates karma at certain times and other times not. Then we will be exploring this beautiful concept that is brought out in the Karma and Choice article of the idea of the mathematics of the soul. And then what choice really is. So in a universe of law, karma is no longer to be thought of as like an external deity and an external personal God, but instead is a law, a tendency in the universe to restore equilibrium. That the fundamental feature of the universe is harmony, because it's a unity in motion, which is harmony, which is basically why the philosophy of Pythagoras is going to become more and more appealing to our society at large, because he goes deep into the topic of harmony. So karma affects all the worlds, we can say. In the ancient East, they talk about the terrestrial world, the astral world, and the celestial world. And so, in other words, that's like of gods, elementals, and men, elementals, and gods. In other words, our normal world that we perceive right now, that would be the world of human beings. And the world of elementals, which is an invisible world of the astral world, you could say. And then the world of the celestial, which is the gods, the fundamental hierarchies of being that uphold the universe according to law. Karma operates incessantly, and during which beings experience pain. So that brings into the subjective life component in a universe of consciousness. In other words, there's no karma without a being to make it or to feel its effects. So the subjective component is a big part of it. Objectively, it's the tendency to restore equilibrium. Subjectively, it's the experience of that restoration wherein we experience pleasure and pain. In a universe of consciousness, there's no karma without a being, but also any apparent stoppage of karma is actually an illusion, because it's due to the adjustment of karma that is occurring elsewhere. And that comes out in one of the aphorisms that Monica read out. The adjustment is taking elsewhere a different spot, place, or focus. So there are times when we will think, wait a minute, where's the justice? Where's the mercy? That has to do with our perception than anything else. So that's the part of the subjective component of karma. In other words, what we experience interiorly is a huge part of the karma itself. It's not just the external events, but it's what's going on within us, how we react, and so forth, and what kind of a creative impulse and potency that we can bring to any karmic event. And this in turn has to do with instrumentality. There's quite a few of those aphorisms that have to do with the appropriateness of an instrument. And karma is only possible when an instrument is provided. So the reincarnation furnishes us a new body, which in turn is a new instrument, which in turn is the field for the operation of karma. That might be an example. Or we went to Thanksgiving dinner and there was a big to-do hoopla that happened. Well, that may not have happened without the Thanksgiving dinner. Okay, that's part of the instrumentality. The other focus of it is the unresolved issues that were building up before that. Okay, and what's interesting, one mysterious statement is that at any point, whatever instrument we are operating through, whether we are in this kind of a body or that kind of a body, whether we're wealthy or whether we're poor or whatever it is, or whether just anything, whatever our job is, whatever it is, or if we have a family and so forth, that instrument is appropriate for the karma working at that time. There's no such thing as an inappropriate instrument. It's an interesting to think about. So therefore, at any time, at any day, at any point in one's life, what's going on is exactly what the soul needs for growth at that moment. Something interesting to think about, even if we don't see it. So then the challenge is to try to see it. Like, what kind of an opportunity is being presented here for the growth of the soul? Now, there was one aphorism in here that Monica read out that was 19. And it's the idea of what happens, how an instrument can change. The instrument is our relationship to our body, our relationship to our mind. It's our relationship to our intellect and to our psychic capabilities, you could say. What kind of instincts that we bring to the table, or intuitions. And changes in the instrument can occur through intensity of thought. And so this is fundamental in theosophy, is the potency of thought. Each human mind is like a huge power plant. We have no idea what kind of energy is being generated. And there's this huge current, or there's this huge chaos, whatever it is. But whatever it is, it's a lot, and it can't be underestimated. The human mind is a very potent part of the universe. And changes in this instrument can take place through intensity of thought and also through the power of a vow. Also, it can take place through the exhaustion of old causes. So certain instrumentalities are just exhausted. For example, the physical body, when it gets to the point where it's no longer useful, then the instrumentality changes. Or we could be taking a course in college. That cycle comes to an end, and then that instrumentality as a field of learning come to a similar end. All this brings us to the magic of this expression, the mathematics of the soul. And it has to do with making calculations from the cause to the effect, or from the effect in reverse back to the causes. And probably a preliminary thing that a person has to grasp if a person's going to try and do that, and try and figure out what's life, or try and figure out what went well or what didn't go so well, or whatever, the mathematics of the soul would be involved. And the first step in that would be really just reverence before the mystery of karma. It is a mystery, and we're not going to figure it out. And that's okay, that life has mysteries. And the reverence for before that great law or the great tendency in the universe and the great teacher of karma, right? It'd be like reverence before a great teacher, really. But it's a mystery. It's inscrutable. And only adepts can really understand karma. And that's why theosophy, one of the things that you can call theosophy is the philosophy of perfectibility. In other words, this idea of perfected human beings that they exist is so important in theosophy. And HPB paid a very dear price to be able to deliver that idea when she actually taught the idea of the existence of great souls, Mahatmas, adepts, elder brothers, and elder sisters, that they exist in this world, and more of them exist than we think. And they understand a lot more about karma than we do. But it's interesting to uphold them as an ideal that, okay, fine, there are people who have a beautiful understanding of karma. We are given a few hints that the person who understands karma, most of us don't, but those who do, they understand the ultimate divisions of time. The karma operates outside of time. It's not dependent on time, but through understanding the ultimate divisions of time, and this can lead to an understanding of the whole mystery of karma. And I don't think that it has to do with knowing exactly what the ultimate divisions are, putting names on them, and so forth. But from the greatest cycles of time conceivable to the most minute cycles of time conceivable. In theosophy, the greatest cycles of time are Manvantaras and Mahamanvantaras. Manvantaras and Pralaya, these are nomenclature to depict the idea of Manvantara as a cycle of learning for millions of years, and then Pralaya is a cycle of sleep for millions of years. And that instead of the universe being a big bang, it's more of a cycle of an ebb and flow, like at the ocean, or like a heartbeat, you could say. So, but one thing that we've been learning in our secret doctrine class is the idea that everything comes from the unmanifest and proceeds through relative and emanates, right, through relative levels of manifestation to finally arrive at where we are here, where it's like the ultimate extension of manifestation. But everything, all light comes from the darkness. That's a mysterious concept. Everything physical comes from the realm of thought. All thought comes from more abstract thought. So everything comes from the unknown. I think there's an expression in the Bible about the idea that darkness surrounds the pavilion of God, for example. So everything comes from this unmanifest, the sacred unmanifest realm. Another clue that we're given is that you can do a lot with karma by calculating from cause to effect, and that's only possible. The problem with that is that the effect appears to be so far removed from the ultimate cause that everything gets lost in the middle. I mean, you can't do the calculation. However, there's this other idea that's provided. At every level of concatenation and precipitation, the effect is wrapped up in the cause. So in other words, every level of effect brings the cause with it. The cause is present in that level of effect. So it's never missing. So if we just imagine a disconnected unfolding of effects that have nothing to do with each other, you could never make the connection. But since the cause is present, there's a presence of that cause. And the biggest clue of all about what that cause is like, it has to do with thought. Remember, everything visible comes from the invisible. So all these external effects, they're rooted in thought at some level. Now, we can either trace things backwards in an Epimethean way. Prometheus sees the one that could see backwards, which is better than nothing, a lot better than nothing. Or we can try to do like great beings do, is to try and function in an Epimethean way. And I think that that's what that presentation that we heard last week was about, noetic ethics, is to learn how to think things through. Theosophy points out that human beings do not come from a personal God, nor did they evolve from animals. That human beings fundamentally come from the gods. It's just such a different reset in terms of one's thinking. And the greatest gods that we can even think of are called the Kumaras. And these are these sacrificial beings that brought fire to the earth. And they are our true ancestors. So when we begin to learn how to use the fire of self-consciousness, we are then assuming our prerogative as the inheritors and the noble lineage of the Kumaras. We are assuming our Kumar prerogative. So in other words, we're bringing creativity to any event and any learning experience. So this has to do with really getting to the heart of karma and choice. Going back to this idea that theosophy is the philosophy of perfectibility, kind of invoking these adepts who are really ourselves at a further phase of things, right? So they're not from another planet or anything like that. They're just us. And they were like us at one point, learning the lessons of life. And they're still learning, obviously, but at a higher level. But one thing about adepts, from this student's humble understanding, is that they have learned to choose every thought. So instead of reacting to things, they can Promethean-like anticipate thought. So this comes under a lot of training, really. Training under teachers, but also self-induced and self-devised efforts, thinking things through. This is such an important capability. And in the Greeks, they called it dianoia, the ability to think things through. And really, Plato had what they called the divided line. So you had aikasia, which is images, and pistis, which is belief. But above the divided line is dianoia, which has to do with abstract models. It's making distinctions between this and that, clarifications and so forth, thinking things through to the point where one could actually enact a whole cycle of karma just in the mind. Let's say a person is anticipating a meeting that's going to happen tomorrow and the stakes are high for whatever reason. The person could think about, well, what can I bring to the table? The other people that I'm meeting with, they are reincarnating pilgrims just like I am. Everybody wants something. Everybody's actually trying to learn, and so forth. It's a getting away from the whole survival way of that we think about when we're anticipating meetings, right? How am I going to survive this? But the thing is bringing to it the idea that everyone is a soul, and also bringing the idea that thought is ever important. And so what kind of ideals could I bring to the meeting? How could things go? Or if I bring this up, maybe it's too soon. Maybe people aren't ready. So in other words, it's thinking about the cause and effect sequence of thoughts in relation to karma, in relation to words, those living messengers called words. So this is kind of a preliminary kindergarten version of thinking things through in a Promethean kind of a way, and using this idea that the effect is wrapped up in the cause. In other words, what kind of a vibration, what kind of a causal vibration can I bring to today's day? And Robert Crosby, another person in the picture there, he says to think of each day as an incarnation. So what kind of and each incarnation has an effect of learning, of soul learning, so that each day has that component. And Desiree will be going into the parts of the day in relation to great cycles. So anyway, it's you can see that there's a lot to this. These are just some preliminary words here. And I consider actually the main message of the evening is what's coming up. So sorry to put the pressure on you. Sorry about that. It just came out. I wasn't thinking ahead of it.
I'll get to you later.
Okay.
Can everybody see me? I'm kind of vertically challenged. I didn't bring my 70s platforms today, so stand on my tippy toes. Oh, there, thank you. I'm gonna go kind of off script for just a moment. Before I get going into just a brief overview of the cycles, I wanted to kind of ask everyone to consider breath. We thought of looking at each day as a new incarnation. Think about a new incarnation for each time we breathe. Because when we breathe, we are going through a process of contraction, expansion, and rest. We breathe in, that's the contraction. We breathe out, it's a rest. And that rest is approximately 3 times the length of time it takes to breathe in and out. We have pi. Think about that as we think about the yugas, because they too represent an expansion and a contraction and a rest. We can understand the yugas of each Manvantara in correspondence with the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, or better yet, through the process of birth, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and its summation in dying and death. These are the arcs in the cycles needed for the alchemical and spiritual evolution of body and soul. The study of the Manvantara outlines the successive transit from innocence of childhood, that of the Krita or Satya state, encompassing a run of 1,728,000 years, and is the vibratory state when it is said humanity walked as very young children with the gods. This golden era marked a time of peace when pure spirituality and living unconditional love prevailed. A time in the ark when the earth moved in perfect rhythm, with bounty full and free of turbulence. Lives were exceptionally long, free from pestilence and disease. Under the Satya vibration, nascent humanity existed in complete harmony with itself and with nature, both being of one mother. When each arc of this cosmic and planetary transit, within each arc of this cosmic and planetary transit, the veil of Maya precipitates and darkens, yet something grand and spiritual remains. In the Treta Yuga, in her 1,296,000 year transit, the veil of Maya, although denser, offered a new way to experience spirituality. In this season of growth, humanity maintained an intimate connection to the gods and nature, giving praise to them by forming temples and performing rituals in sacrifice. Kings ruled as compassionate parents, protecting their children in alignment with the vibration of the gods before them. During this arc in the cycle, humanity gradually developed an awareness that actions and consequences, perhaps quite the same way an adolescent learns through trials when testing the boundaries of his own will. This is a very natural thing for an adolescent to do. Giving sway to the 864,000 span of Dwapara, the veil of Maya hardens still. The perception of the distinctions between groups and their gods, and a perceived separation between man and nature, became more objectified, acute, and outwardly tangible. Yet within the perception of these distinctions, humanity is allowed the opportunity to examine its world more closely through its integral parts. This is a time of great discovery, the burgeoning of ancient astronomy and mathematics, the great emergence of intellectual prowess, philosophy, and the refinement of language. But as we know, this season must give up its prominence to an iron age, that of the Kali Yuga and its 432,000-year reign. This iron age precipitates a vortex of darkness when the now solidified veil between humanity and its spiritual origins is polarized. The Vishnu Purana gives a clue to the symptoms of this age, which I will paraphrase here, and I'm sure most of us will find all too familiar. In this arc, rulers become unreasonable and disloyal, kings wicked and wealthy, trading human virtues and values for the unfair levying of taxes and laws that benefit the few while ignoring the many. Petty selfish emotions will replace reason. Disreputable personalities will claim to preach the truth, but instead will incite discord and violence. Passion will replace love between partners until relationships themselves become merely transactional. Women will be objectified as sexual objects for sensual gratification, and all social classes will be reduced to the lowest level. Nature, too, will revolt, expressed in turbulence and extreme weather, catastrophic upheavals, famine, pestilence, and disease. The distinction between the light and dark forces becomes ever more acute. But there is a bright side to the conditions we find ourselves in this Kali Yuga, and that it is a shorter period of time, shorter than the other yugas. However, its shortness, its brevity is balanced by a quickening of energy. Imagine the same amount of energy now flowing through an aperture 1/4 the size of its parent. All action, karma, is quickened in this arc. Beyond all of the vices, misconduct, bloodshed, and intellectual drowsiness, and buried virtues of this age, this is actually a very important time, more than ever before, to advance humanity. This is a time when choice plays a more significant role and has greater impact and is more consequential than in earlier yugas. Sri Raghavan Iyer describes this quickening in an article entitled Opportunities in Kali Yuga. Here he states many people experiencing this intensification of karma have developed elaborate theories regarding the pace of change in their modern era. Culture shock, future shock, and the like. In truth, it is simply the result of an acceleration in the vortex of precipitation in the Kali Yuga. When this factor is compounded by the embryonic forces of the Aquarian age, everything happens much faster within a month, within a week, or even within a day. That was considered possible a century ago. And he warns that this age is a time when, quote, souls either lose their spiritual vibration more quickly or hold a vibration and move much faster with it. Nonetheless, all this occurs under the law of karma, All the teachings of cosmic and cyclic evolution is designed to help the individual to insert him or herself into the larger perspective and toward archetypal understanding. He warns us, excuse me, in an article entitled Opportunities in the Kali Yuga, that those who cannot keep pace with the forward march of human evolution will accordingly be much more deranged and disordered than they otherwise might be. The incapacity of human beings in general to recognize the imminence of the restoration of archetypal spiritual humanity is bound up with their ostrich-like obsession with life in the physical form. The difficulty of extricating ourselves from mental obscuration is aggravated for many by the accelerated pace of karmic precipitation during this present Kali Yuga. This Yuga, which has already passed away for 5,000 years of its 432,000 transit, is a relatively short time when seen from the perspective of the root races and sub-races. Sri Iyer reminds us in his article, Metaphysics, Ethics, and Karma, that entering this karmic stream of self-reliance is not for the morally obtuse or mentally lazy, but through the careful study of cycles and their dharmic significance, adherence to arcane ethics and universal law, through the proper study and practice of viveka, which is discrimination, and vairagya, which is detachment, and through loyal devotion to our higher self, we can be of benefit to humanity. Sri Iyer shines a positive light on our present cycle, stating that those capable of taking and adhering to vows, Kali Yuga offers a great opportunity. But he also cautions in the danger of ascent when done carelessly, hastily, or without fidelity. He states, as a mountain climber, the higher one goes, the greater the danger of giddiness and falling. And the more precipitous and the potential fall, the higher and more rarefied the atmosphere in which it takes place. But if one maintains steadiness in the thin air of high altitude, one's perspective may suddenly expand. This is true both on the mental and physical planes. In Kali Yuga, karmic causes may be rapidly exhausted and illusions rapidly destroyed. Opportunities are thus unusually abundant at this time. But of course, the risk of falling is ever present and the consequence equally magnified. It is a fact tested time and time again over the ages that regularity of meditation, deep loyalty in vow taking, study of cycles externally and internally, a sincere reverence of nature and her great teachers, strengthens and steadies will. The mathematical law of karma works unceasingly, and within its folds of high ethics, justice, and mercy, and the lofty vibration of compassion, impersonal and universal, provides opportunities of increased perception, discernment, and sacrifice. Let's remember too that we're here because of Kamadeva, the eternal love of the universe. It is love that brings us here. So anytime we might be feeling a little bit of a frustration of our brothers and sisters, think too, love brings them here as well. And now from the voice of the silence. Thou shalt not separate thy being from being and the rest, but merge the ocean in the drop within the ocean. So shall thou be in full accord with all that lives, bear love to men as though they were thy brothers, pupils, disciples of the one teacher, the sons of the one sweet mother. Of teachers there are many, the master soul is one, Alaya. the universal soul. Live in that master as its ray in thee. Live in thy fellows as they live in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Desiree. We now have time for questions and comment. We have a good 25 minutes at least. And we can take them from inside the hall here or in Zoom land. Monica?
Can you hear me? From here, should I?
Um,
Can people out there hear Monica?
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I unmuted myself. I didn't know if you wanted me to.
thank
That's
you.
okay.
Thank you for helping.
Okay, well, thank you both. This was a great presentation, very clarifying and moving somehow. I think it's probably helpful to get a perception of the Kali Yuga as shorter than the other ages, given the possibilities of Cray within it. But I have a question about vows. How does one make a choice out of, say, assessing circumstances? What should be a vow, and how do you create that? How does one create for themselves, particularly if you're non-organized religion or something like that, with you're on your own kind of thing? How does one go about doing that?
Oh,
I'd like to hear from you.
does it
Go
matter?
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think first there has to be a real commitment on the part of the individual who knows that there is a higher aspect of themselves. Because when people generally make vows, they're appealing to a higher aspect of themselves. And it's that connection that I think people are trying to relate to. In some ways, it could be like prayer. But it's prayer with intent of connecting and building that intuitive connection with oneself. I mean, we have pledge cards here. The pledge cards are not for necessarily to pledge to some outward entity. It's to pledge something to oneself. And I think there has to be a real commitment to that, whatever it is you're pledging. What do you have to say about pledges?
Oh, okay. Just to kind of add to that idea that really could say that in the Aquarian age, the whole society has, in some way, has become a monastery. Or you could say that there is no monastery. It's a secular monasticism. So, in other words, this potency of choice in the Kali Yuga, it's one thing to do the mathematics of the soul and to bring it from an Epimethean thing to a Promethean thing. Instead of looking backwards and saying, okay, I guess that happened. How do I learn? Which is not bad. To being able to anticipate things and think things through in advance. Okay. But then at a more intense level is the power of a vow. Think of how Promethean the power of a vow is. First of all, as you suggest in your question, there's the idea of almost designing a vow that will actually be helpful. You know, you could say that there's the idea of the Kuan Yin pledge. You could start with that by just admiring it. And when a person is ready to take that vow, then they'll know. The soul knows what it knows. But meanwhile, just admire that there are beings who have taken that pledge, the Bodhisattva ideal. Also, there's the vow to make this whole system that we study come alive for us, right? That's another kind of a general thing. But on the other hand, in one's self-study, in one's realizations about things with family or anything or work, one could make pledges to oneself, all the while keeping in mind what Desiree said. You're not pledging to anybody in a confessional. That doesn't matter. That's all old news. You're not to a priest. It's no outside authority. But part of this whole Aquarian awakening that's going on is people are realizing, wait a minute, the Atman is within. And we all have that. So there's a higher power and a higher wisdom in each human being, higher than any conceivable external God, really. So now making a pledge or a commitment to that higher self tends to, there's something logos-like about the Atman, such that it shines light. And so all of the obscure places within oneself start to become precipitated. And you start learning a lot about yourself. You could say that's happening to all of humanity right now. You could say that. Is that you could say, well, it's a dark age and wow, can hardly wait till it gets over with. But there's another thing of saying, what a wonderful thing that humanity has come through the cycle. And as Desiree so beautifully pointed out, that there's this accelerating learning curve going on for all of humanity. And what a glorious outcome that could be. But these are a couple more comments. Does anybody in the audience, because it's such an important question, have something there? Nancy.
Can I ask a question or?
Yeah, you can change it. You can ask a different question or anything you want.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm enjoying this. This is going to be a very elementary example, but I really think about this a lot. The person that's giving you the karma, for instance, where I live in the laundry room, sometimes people are real difficult, okay? And maybe it's just their personality, maybe they don't care, whatever. But is the person that's giving you the karma that I don't know if I'm using the words correctly, it's not supposed to have or given to us, are they creating more karma for themselves? It's a little bit of a dichotomy because we're getting the karma, but the person giving the karma to us, whether it's a person, a boss, or, are they creating more for themselves? Or is it just kind of happenstance? I just, is that an odd question? But I do think about it a lot.
Well, we're creating karma also by how we respond to it. So even our thoughts, unspoken thoughts, create karma because it's an imbalance. It's like a ripple in the water, it will come back. So in fact, your thoughts, as you're receiving this wonderful message from other people, your thoughts in return are also creating ripples. And so it's always important to be careful that we stop ourselves before we react. Stop ourselves and give ourselves a moment. I'm not saying to be mean to ourselves, but just to be a good parent to yourself. Do what a good parent would do to you. Bring you back, calm down, and be of goodwill to other people. And always try not to judge the person, but the action. Love the sinner. You can correct the sin, but left the center always, so that you're focused on the action and not the person.
Okay.
Okay, that's one way to encounter
Thank you.
that situation. I know it's really difficult, but
Because
um,
then you got the thing about on this human form boundaries and this, all kinds of stuff. But as far as the karma one, I was wondering about that. So I could be sending out more karma from how I'm reacting in thoughts from their actions. For instance, it happens a lot in our laundry room. Well, and it's life. 500 people here.
So practical.
Simplify it, right? It's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah.
Thank you. So I gotta watch what I'm sending back to them in thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all
But would you think that it's always karma though?
all action, including thought, is karmic. Yes.
Or for the person that's, for instance, in the laundry room, is that what I'm saying is that my dispensation of karma that they're giving me versus it could be something else. Does that make sense? I'm trying to be
Yeah, I'm not a
easy
karma
life.
doctor,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm not a karma doctor, but
I'm just curious
it's
how you,
something good to contemplate.
okay, because I just always wondered about this. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
karma
you.
means action. Yeah.
That'd be a good radio show. The karma.
The karma doctor. There you go. There you go. You just
Miluka, you've
love
got
it.
your
Thank you.
Hi.
Yeah, I do contemplate this a lot. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a very heartfelt, very, very sincere presentation. Thank you for that. I was reading, and Einstein said, weak people is into revenge. Strong people forgive. And intelligent people ignore. And then another thought that came to mind was that the only two things that doesn't die is love and hate. Therefore, we bring it back in every life. So the more you love, the less karma, I guess.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Elena? New York City.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me?
Hi, Helena.
Hi, amazing, wonderful. I told Jonathan before I saw this talk was coming up, and I had questions I was preparing during the week because karma is such a big practical topic. You know what I mean? And I think really we need to speak to it more often. Because we sort of take for granted that people know what it's about, and it's probably one of the deepest possible subjects to study in theosophy, especially on a practical level, like the laundry room. So, so it was a great question. It was a great question, but I was reading up on Jung, a lot of Jung, and people, I think, on some level, consciously or not, maybe they're not consciously doing it in the laundry room. It's sort of like involuntary because they let their hair down, and they're washing out stuff and cleansing themselves as well in the process on some level. But I was thinking that on some level, when these people around us, they could be projecting their pain, right? They could be, and Judge, elucidates this as well, even all that time ago, that we have these mechanisms karmically that are always trying to heal us on some level. And so when we study theosophy and we have some kind of balance, going on in our juggling act of life, that we might actually draw these reactions from people, in a small way, the way that the masters would, receive it from us. So not that we want to be moving targets, but maybe just mindful that sometimes, these people are searching, for their own understanding and healing around karma, and we might be precipitating or drawing that kind of energy towards us.
For a lesson.
Yeah, to share, some insight into what their, where their karma, where their healing, whether it's ancestral or early childhood or, relationships or whatever it is,
Or
because if until it gets healed, it's going to keep appearing, right? Until the lesson is learned, the necessity ceases. So it's going to keep coming up in people because that's where they need the insight about karma, and maybe we can help them, maybe not, but that might be one of the reasons things happen in the laundry room.
Thank you very much, Lena.
One thing I think we can say to that is we experience what our fellows experience because we share the same repertoire of experiences. So if someone is sending you a hate vibe, the only reason you can pick it up is because it's within your own repertoire of experience as a human being. See, because if it wasn't, you wouldn't recognize it at all. Okay? So it's something to I think it's, for me at least, it's an important thing to remember that I'm looking at mirrors all around me. And I'm also reflecting like a mirror. And we are all that reflection. We're all that light that we're bouncing off of each other. We all are. So everything that we experience, we don't experience in a silo, even if we think we do. It's shared, all of it. Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah, in the hall here.
Well, when you say vow, I think of marriage.
Oh, vow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now it's a little bit more intimate than the laundry room. And the vow, you say it's in the context of a religious vow, when you're vowing to each other, and we're in Southern California, what marriage means, what it means, right? So how does then karma works? If we're reflection of mirrors and we're all trying to get better, but people's commitment to vows or understanding of vows could be different, and people can say anything. I mean, you can recite words, but that doesn't mean that that's a vow. People say words all the time.
Yeah, so
what's a true vow?
Yeah. And then are you then obligated, saying, I know you said that you're like, whatever you see in another person, but some of that can be abusive or, I mean, it doesn't, or to what extent do you keep playing or stay in the arena? When the vow is about you turning to one, it's say in a marriage context, and it gets to be, I mean,
well, it might also be life demonstrating what a vow isn't. So, I mean, here there is a intent to go inward. So even though a vow is important in terms of its integrity for others, it has to be an initial understanding of what that vow actually means. And there is a higher aspect of people, of thought, to try to do the very best. I'm not going to use the word godly, but the most spiritual path that we can possibly take. And that requires a promise to oneself. Maybe let's get rid of the word vow for a minute. I'm going to promise you, my higher self, that I will do everything in my power to keep you in my thoughts and to follow your guidance. It's almost like a child to a parent when you think about it. Look what adolescent children do. What do they try to do most of all? Please the parent. They emulate the parent. They want good report from the parent in a similar way. So it doesn't have to be necessarily this arduous, rigorous thing. We are making a promise. And how deep and true that promise is depends on each and every one of us personally. I can't depend on someone else to determine the worth of my vow. It begins with us individually. So you see, it doesn't matter what somebody else considers the vow to mean to him or her. What matters is what it means to you when you make that vow.
We've got two more hands up. Jamie? Bravo?
I see a lot of hands.
Yeah, Jamie, you've got your mic on mute. Okay, well, we'll come back to Jamie. Victor, how you doing? You got your mic on mute too.
Good evening. I'm glad to be here.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. It's been a great message. A lot to say. I'm also come up. There's a way to feel the presence of a karmic cycle that each individual can access through a unique set of reasons for why, when, or how things occur. Yeah. For the existing ways, there is the natural way. Right, how the natural ways exist, to identify them, how does the naturalist take on karma in life? The major ingredient is truly unique in each person, giving an opportunity for that grasp in life from the basis of it to a personal measure of virtue, frankly, by the reins, to be more frank. And it's not so tip-tap about it to really guide one's life by the reins, yeah. And sprinkle the gift to us. So the question, because karma affects one's future, unfortunately, in my opinion, but from immediacy. Is it correct? So yes or no? Is it from immediacy that karma is effective? Or is it sort of in an immediacy? So when we need it, it doesn't fail us, of course, because it's karma. But to lighten on what's a karmic cycle, a little tangible perhaps, just to make it make sense. While karma, we really need to be something that we can always, it's coming. I don't know what the question is in that area, is the effect that karma has from immediacy to cause and effect. With regard to cause and effect, is it from immediacy? Or is it in immediacy that we're dealing with karma? So we look at what our structure is or karmic cycle. Maybe.
Okay, Desiree, can you kind of discern an essence to the question? part of that reason is the transmission is not coming through as well as it could. But go ahead, Desiree, what do you,
Well, karma energy. Let's just talk about energy.
could you
for a
repeat
minute.
his question?
Well, I think he wants, if I'm getting it correctly, he's talking about the immediacy of karma. So I'm thinking it has to do with how it's distributed. If I'm wrong, let me know. But I will say that karma is based on energy. Energy, other than can't be created or destroyed, is plastic. What does that mean? It means it can be stored. It can be divvied out in multiple ways. It doesn't always have to go, in a big stream to one person. Sometimes it can go out to many people at the same time in smaller portions. Karma is the law of balance, and it knows exactly, without actually having to calculate, because it's a master calculator in of itself, will know how to distribute action and reaction. It knows what it will never distribute something, some kind of action to a body that cannot handle it ever. It is always that body is prepared to take it, whether they know it or not, whether they think it or not. And so we understand the law of karma as a universal law. And it leads to order. It is order. If we look at the universe in its grand scale, from the microcosm of an atom to the macrocosm of the grand mega clusters of galaxies, everything is operating under order and balance. We, as human beings here on this Kali operate in imbalance. And so there has to be a law that provides protection for us. So it's not just a law of what some people call punishment. It has nothing to do with punishment. It has to do with restoring balance. So, and we suffer for it, of course, because we put things out of balance. And when that water rushes back, we receive it. But it's at the end of the day, we are honing the character of a God to be. We are honing that character. It teaches us primarily love. Because love is where we come from. But we have to learn it through our own self-devised methods and pathways. Because in that state, we just are it. If you can imagine that. It's not just being it, like as if it were a quality. We actually are it. It's something to contemplate, because in this state, we can only imagine it as a quality. And this is an important process as we pull apart and understand ourselves from these integral pieces, But we are actually that. If you can imagine, I am the action of love. I am love itself, not just its receiver, not just its sender. I am that. All of us. All life.
So good, Des.
Jamie?
Thank you. That was a good answer. I liked it. I could
That's
study
great.
more about it, and thank
got-
you.
Jamie's trying to get in there. You got another chance here.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I actually got disconnected. Thank you. It's been a great talk. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking my question too. So I was speaking to a friend recently, and we were talking about health, and I've had my health challenges in the last year. But so karma, you have to accept everything that comes to you because it's karmically what you deserve, correct? I mean, we were talking how it came up, the karma came up. Was was because my mom, who died of lung cancer, never smoked. My dad,
I think you got disconnected again.
Jamie?
yeah,
Jamie,
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Your
so
dad.
so
Yeah.
we came up, so we started talking about somehow talking about health, and then karma, as relates to health. And I mentioned that my mom unfortunately died of not unfortunately, but died of lung cancer and never smoked a day in her life. And my dad started smoking cigars when he was 9 and died with clear lungs, right? And then that came up of well, karmically, you deserve also the health that it applies to everything, including health, basically. How does that, so my question is that true? And how do you, I mean, how do you, can you explain that? Is that true?
Do you have a few things on that?
Everything's deserved, basically.
Your
Just
answer.
clarify.
But yeah, thank you for the question. Well, it's kind of we're coming to the end of our time, but thank you for the question. I think there's at least 2 ways of looking at karma, probably thousands, but let's start with just 2. One is the idea of what you deserve, but the other would be how. I think it's an okay place to start by saying, okay, I deserve this, because no, that's acknowledging that this is connected with me. It's a person getting out of their denial and so forth. But I don't think you want to stay there because really a more kind of wholesome, holistic way of thinking of karma is that life is learning. All of life is learning. And karma is the great teacher. Not the teacher in terms of something that's going to wrap your knuckles, but a teacher in terms of, like, imagine a great being as a teacher, who is infinitely wise and who's been through every experience possible, and who has been where you are. That's like karma, because really the karma is your own higher self. It's your own higher self speaking with you and shining light into every circumstance, into every nook and cranny, and so forth. So let me get this back down to the practical level. Let's say that I've come down with an illness, and whatever it is, the first thing would be to think, okay, what would be, what is it, instead of saying what caused this, why me, wouldn't it be better to say, wow, what an amazing opportunity to learn. What am I going to learn? Somehow, and this gets down to the question of what the learning evolution even is. Our last Aquarian meeting, the speaker actually said, we're not here to survive and to get by. She said, we're here to evolve. That's such a challenge. So, in other words, if we look at everything that happens in our life as an opportunity to learn, including somebody being grumpy in the washroom, right? Or getting a traffic ticket, or something goes great in one's life. You can learn from success. Why not? Then the whole thing becomes this, like life becomes like a free university, and it's like a big smorgasbord. You can take what's available, and there's all this wonderful free knowledge that can come. So getting back to this idea that if I get sick, I can know that everything comes ultimately from thought. So what kind of thought has led up to this? Also, am I going to feel sorry for myself, or am I going to be grateful, actually, bringing gratitude to the table? I know that that's very difficult, but why not? You can learn it from children.
Hmm.
And also that I'm going to, I wonder if there's something in my illness that I can offer to other people. Maybe there's still an opportunity to do some good in this world. Maybe I'm limited here, but maybe this is an opportunity to do some good over here. There's one of these aphorisms that we were reading from, and we didn't read it tonight, but it's the one that's number 28, that says, if you see a person going through difficult circumstances, that we don't know what caused that for them. It could be the soul gaining strength and fortitude. And only an adept, it says in that aphorism, really actually knows what's going on with another person. And an adept is very humble about looking into somebody else's karma. And they don't do it except for under rare circumstances. But they, at a minimum, they know that there's a great, that soul is gaining strength that's going to stand them in good stead in this lifetime and in the future. David, why don't you, is it okay if David, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add to that, sometimes it's not the ill person that is receiving or needs to have that experience as much as it is the people around them. So
I was trying to get to that.
Oftentimes they are the ones that suffer much more,
yes,
acutely than the person with the illness. So, and so that's where we kind of gain a strength too of letting go, or for being have a reverence for the spirit of a human being, but not be able to let go of a body and instead put that reverence on the spirit. All I just want to say is that sometimes we think it's the individual that's getting a bad deal, but and also I wanted to say that if we had just a static life where everything was happy-go-lucky, we would never learn a freaking thing. We just wouldn't. We had no character. They did experiments with dogs. Okay. They got a wolf and you got a domesticated dog. And they have this little mechanism where the dog can go up to the little lever and pull it and do a couple other things, and he can get the food. And they showed it to a wolf one time, and that wolf was able to do it all on its own. They showed it to a domestic dog, and he just sat there waiting for the dumb human to go do it for him. So what I'm saying though is we build character throughout suffering, not through just sitting back and letting life happen and not having an opinion and not doing anything and just getting and feeling comfortable 24/7. That's not what challenges the soul. It's not what teaches the soul. It's good to know the difference, but without that difference, we would be static.
David, why don't you tell us some wise thing? I know you have something, and we'll end the wise thing.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're waiting.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. No, I was just thinking we kind of look at karma in two ways. That as personalities, we look at karma as what happens to us, Yeah. But from more of an egoic standpoint, maybe we need to think of ourselves as causal agents. And HPVs, express this in so many ways. I pulled up just one little quote where she says, "It is an occult law, moreover, that no man can rise superior to his individual failings without lifting, be it ever so little, the whole body of which he is an integral part." And the reverse, of course, in the same way, no one can sin nor suffer without, affecting all other beings also. So that's one way we can use the law of karma is to think about that in in the laundry room. We're a causal agent here. There's something positive we can do. Kind of focuses us on doing the good, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you, David,
Thank
very
you,
much.
David.
Our time is up, it's been up for a few minutes, and I would like to just do something here. After we've kind of gone through this whole exercise that we have, and thinking this through quite a bit, we could end on this quote in the almanac for this week. And let me find it. We have to go into April, almost June to get there. May, almost June.
Me too.
By the way, next week, just so you know, we're doing a series like once a month this year in the almanac on the 7 deadly sins. But the way this almanac's been designed is that each deadly sin is paired with a virtue, to think of the dichotomy, and also the medicine to the error. You could say next week is patience and anger. And just given all of this discussion on karma and choice, there's a quote in the almanac that says, "The capacities for self-determination, creative initiative, and noetic choice, implicit in the concept of ethical responsibility, are the insignia of the immortal individuality in man." So, Desiree.
Thank you, Jonathan. And Desiree, thank you.
Desiree, Jonathan.
Thank you, Desiree, so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Body be
Thank
well.
Thank you. Be well and safe.